So, Neil Fiore is the best selling author of The Now Habit, Awaken Your Strongest Self, and then also coping with the emotional impact of cancer. He was a paratrooper with the 101st Airborne, a manager for Johnson& and Johnson, and has worked as a psychologist at the Counseling Center of the University of California, Berkeley. Dr. Fiore has been published in the New England Journal of Medicine and been cited in the New York Times, London Times, and the Wall Street Journal, and continues to contribute to popular magazines like Psychology Today, Fitness, Elle, Glamour, Entrepreneur, and Boardroom Reports.
Yes.
And I'm like, it's amazing. Like, as a trainer and coach, you've helped like thousands of clients and consulted many renowned like companies as well. And you're the author of now 7 books. Is that 7 books?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Amazing. And you were also the former president of the Northern California Society of Clinical Hypnosis. So this is a very, very big CV, very much so. And again, thank you so much for agreeing to speak to me, Dr. Fiore.
You're very welcome, and thank you for the very challenging questions you presented to me.
Honestly, it's something I ponder over all the time. So, first of all, I've got to ask you, why do we procrastinate, and do we all do it? Is it a problem for everyone?
Well, hopefully, all of us procrastinate on something. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having fun, and our life would be pretty dull. But people, that question, why do we procrastinate? We procrastinate out of fear. We avoid, like the cat on the hot stove. It's one trial learning. If I touch that hot stove, I'm going to avoid it. And if I define a task as like that hot stove, I will avoid it. It's a threat to me. If you define something as a threat to your ego, to your life, to your joy, to your sense of worth, you're going to avoid it. So to get around that, to be a producer, you need to approach the thing that you fear. I describe in my books being 22 years of age and being ready to graduate from airborne paratrooper school. And I am in the plane and I'm saying to myself, you have to do this. And another part, of course, is saying, this is crazy, I don't want to, and I'm stuck, which is the classic term I hear from my clients. I'm stuck. Yes, because you divided yourself into you have to, a dictator voice, versus I don't want to. And you can't move. There's no energy. Well, to make a long story short, while being stuck in that situation, I see the first man get in the door of the plane and he puts his hands on the inside of the door. We were trained to put our hands on the outside and to pull ourselves through a propeller blast or prop blast of 150 miles an hour. You really need to be intent on leaving the plane because the plane is going about 150 miles an hour. You're at 1,500 feet. And when he does it incorrectly with ambivalence, putting his hands on the inside, he gets picked up by that prop blast and his body gets slammed against the outside of the plane, as they told us would happen. So when that happened, luckily he survived, albeit with black and blue marks. But when you do that and you do something with ambivalence, accidents happen. So at that moment, while being stuck, telling myself you have to, but I don't want to, being stuck, at that moment, I broke free and said, a no-brainer, I'm not going to do it that way. The sergeant's not going to kick me out. That was my second choice. My third choice, I'm in the door. I put my hands on the outside of the plane, bend my knees, jump up, and I clear that plane by about 10 feet. A few minutes later, I land on the ground, roll, and laugh. Not only am I without a scratch, I've fallen 1,500 feet. I see the other planes going by, and I realize there's a third place. It's not just you have to versus I don't want to. The third place is choice. And when you choose to do something, those forces that are against each other support your vision, your mission. And At the age of 22, I discovered choice. There is a choice. And I didn't know it at the time, but choice is only in the human prefrontal cortex, the human forehead. Our brain is the only brain on the planet that can choose graduate school, choose surgery, choose dental work, choose to face income tax forms, do things that are difficult. Right? So choice is the secret to productivity. Am I choosing to be in this dental chair or surgical table? If it's a have to, you're going to have difficulties because that means I'm a victim. I don't want to. To break out of that, I want to get to a place of choice. I didn't know it at the time, at the age of 22, but it comes from the executive function of the human forehead. So you want to operate out of your leadership brain. Are you choosing to do this? Well, I have to, but I don't want to. In one sentence, the person splits their energies. And that's what I hear all the time from my procrastinating clients. So we get to a place of choice. And that's a shift, by the way, of identity. Are you the part of you that's like a child that says, no, I don't want to, but you have to? That's not going to work. You don't have to want to, is what I've said to my children. You don't have to want to. You can choose to do it. You don't have to want to. This was a new concept to a 4-year-old. Like, what? That's right. Any of it, we want to get to a place of choice.
That's yeah, and you brought up the childhood aspect, which is so important, isn't it? Where I think we create a lot of this, and we are surrounded by a lot of this growing up. So why do you think that our environment creates this kind of perfectionistic mentality, which obviously is quite detrimental in the long term?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because there's this fear of criticism. There's this fear of failure. To answer your first question, fear is one of the big reasons people procrastinate. So a fear of being humiliated, a fear of being stuck in a particular kind of job. And our parents, with good intentions, want to keep us from a lot of pain in life and society. And so they want us to be perfect. Well, we can't be perfect. So we develop a fear of failure. And one of the things that so many wise people have told us is learn to accept failure, fail and recover, overcome very early your fear of failure. And Malcolm Gladwell has said repeatedly that those people who have failed early in life are the ones who succeed because they're not afraid of it. Right? In David and Goliath, his book, he talks about any event, the people who have not done well early in life, and I would include myself, have no fear of failure. So, what are you going to do to me? I've experienced it, and I'm still here. I'm still fighting. Let's see what happens. So, yes, our society tells us you have to succeed, you have to do this, and be afraid of failure. Well, we want to embrace failure in a sense, small failures, hopefully, and learn that I still recover because I have a sense of self. My sense of self is separate from my work. So one of the big things that people do that causes problems is they equate, and society does this too, they equate your worth as a person with your work and your net worth in the bank. So in schooling, and we have a system of ABCs, if you get an F on your work, then you are an F person. But no, not at all. If you get an A, you're an A person. No, not at all. You want a sense of worth that is safe. So the thing that we fear most is self-criticism, because you can't get away from the thoughts in your mind. So we want to develop a sense of robust sense of self-worth, that regardless of what happens, regardless of what they say, regardless of what they think, your worth is safe with me. So you shift to a leadership perspective, a compassionate self that accepts the part of you that is like the child, that is frightened of abandonment and criticism. And you're basically saying, regardless of what happens, your worth is safe with me. And then, of course, you have that little what if voice, that little sock puppet that says, yes, but what if this happens? What if that happens? What that voice needs to be answered. Yes, and we're not denying, yes, that would be awful if that happens. That would hurt. And in approximately 2 to 6 breaths, 10 to 30 seconds, I will be over it and I will reestablish a sense of worth and decide what to do from, again, the leadership brain, the human brain, not from the animal brain. The animal brain reacts. The human brain chooses how to act in a way that is consistent with her values and goals. I choose to act.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I am a primitive brain person for sure. I definitely react quite badly to things. So I was just wondering. So one of the things I ended up doing with procrastination is Google searching
Ah,
procrastination. And what was really strange was all the
yes.
various like reasonings that people gave why people procrastinate. So why
Ah,
do you think there are, people have such a sort of varied notion when it comes to procrastination? Because there is no one answer on Google.
yeah. Well, it's that terrible question, why? Which, I'm a behavioral therapist, cognitive behavioral, dialectic behavioral. I'm not a psychoanalyst. Psychoanalysts ask why. Well, why is a swamp? It creates all kinds of theories, as opposed to what can we do now? And we are often raised in families where if the child spills the milk, a parent will say, why did you do that? And then the child says, well, I have to go into psychoanalysis for 5 years to figure out what hostilities I have toward my parents. Why am I doing it? As opposed to a behavioral family, how are we going to avoid that in the future? How do we clean it up? How do we get working on it? What can I do now? 5 essential words. Excuse me, I don't have this camera correct. But what can I do now? Write that down. Those 5 words are essential. Specifically, what can I do to clean up the mess? How do I avoid it in the future? Those words are much more useful and effective than why. Why gets us theorizing. So there are all these theories. Why, and why also means that you're to blame. What did I do wrong? I spilled the milk. How do I clean it up? How do I avoid it in the future? Then we have a learning environment. And I'm capable of learning because I'm not traumatized by guilt and turning inward and going into psychoanalysis or paralysis by analysis. I am active. I'm moving. What can I do? To be effective as a leader in your life, you need to tell your workers, your mind and body, that is, when to start for at least 15 minutes, as opposed to, I have to finish. So, one of the reasons people procrastinate is they use the wrong leadership terms. You have to do it, but I don't want to. You divide your energies, you're driving with the brakes on, you're in a tug of war, you're stuck, as opposed to, I'm choosing to show up. I don't have to like it. I don't have to like surgery, but I will choose to do it which calms the body down, by the way. So you are able to heal more quickly. I'm choosing to be here for my future self. I'm facing this now. I'm facing this work in school so that my future self will have a better life. I don't have to like it. I don't have to want to. You can choose to do something that's difficult. And by the way, the human brain is geared to solving problems. We actually go into games and we do puzzles. You don't have to, but we do it because the brain is interested in learning. And we play games, whether it be soccer or football. Um, we, we play these games uh, because, well, we're designed to learn. We're just learning machines and we're eager to learn. So we are not naturally lazy. Human nature has been sold short, Abraham Maslow said. We all have a natural drive to do good work, to be fair and just, and to make a contribution. If that's missing, something in the society has suppressed it. So
But
it's a more positive sense of human nature.
yeah, no, definitely. And does that mean that's how you become a producer, which is what you mentioned in the book, of course, which is someone who does something? And do you think that's the best way? Is basically learning that everything is a choice?
Operating from choice is a shift in brains from the animal reactive brain about the level of the ear up again to the prefrontal cortex executive function. That's what it's called. It's executive function, it's leadership. So I am choosing, and choice only exists in the human forehead. No other brain on the planet can choose school or doing income tax or surgery. So, as an effective leader, I want to tell the workers when to start, what to do, even if. So, we know from the research that those people who achieve their goals say when they're going to start for 15 or 30 minutes, as opposed to, I have to finish. So, I have to finish creates procrastination, anxiety, and stress. Plus, finish is in the future. So, you can't start on it. When can I start for 15 minutes? When? Specifically on what? Take 10 to 30 seconds, perhaps with your eyes closed, to imagine the task. What is the task? You are priming your brain to begin working on that task. Even if, that's the clincher, that's brilliant. Even if you're doing a mental rehearsal of your usual excuses, even if I'm hungry, even if a part of me doesn't want to, even if I'm interrupted, even if my favorite distractions come up, yes, I'm committed to starting. Choosing to start is so different than I have to finish. I have to finish all of this work, do it perfectly, and suffer with no fun. And then the worst one, and my worth as a person will be judged. I've replaced those with I choose to start for a short period, a rough draft. It's not going to be perfect. I have plenty of guilt-free play in my schedule. And my worth, your worth with me is safe. This paper, this book is not me. This is my work. So when you try to criticize me as a person, I go, well, wait a minute. My work is imperfect. Let me know how to improve it. And I've had to say this to some of my editors along the way. And having 7 books, I've had many editors. So, so I remember one of them would say, "How's your June?" How's your June? What am I supposed to do with that? Both of us want to make this book better. Tell me specifically how I can improve that phrase or that chapter. Instead, don't criticize me, but how do we improve the work? And most of them were amazed at how quickly I turned it around, because it wasn't about my ego. It was about making the work better. I, I'm hoping I'm answering your question.
Yeah, no, that's no, it's true, isn't it? That's the hardest bit, isn't it? Sometimes when your ego gets in the way, it really does kind of jolt. The whole idea of changing and making progress with something. And you mentioned like flow state and sort of controlled setbacks and as a way to sort of try and get into that state. So did you have to do that whilst you were editing? And also, how did you manage that?
So the flow state is a state that we reach in focus or meditation. So I strongly recommend that people get into some ritual before starting the task. I have on my website, neilfiore.com, methods of meditating and getting into it. I call it centering. Inhale, hold, and tighten your muscles. These are controlled by your conscious mind and nervous system. Release and choose to be in the present. Float down into the support of the chair. I'm choosing to be here. You're exhaling and shutting off stress hormones. It's a choice. It's not an inner conflict. I'm choosing to be in front of this task. You're bringing your mind out of the future. I'm choosing to start for 15 minutes. I'm replacing I have to finish with I'm choosing to start. I'm replacing do it all, finish it with just to start for 15 minutes or one page. And when you look at the work of some of the most creative people, they usually start around breakfast time on one page for 30 minutes and show up several times during the day. I certainly did because I always worked. So I didn't have time to work straight through. I would fight to get in a half an hour and then it would total about 2 hours a day. So in my writing and my doctoral dissertation, I was able to complete it in a year, accumulating 15 hours a week, not 100 hours, not 60 hours like the procrastinators, but focused work. 15 hours a week was enough while working a full-time job, was enough to complete a doctoral dissertation in 1 year. 15 to 20 hours a week was enough to complete a book in a year. So 20 times 50 is 1,000 hours, about 1,000 hours. If you're doing 100, if you're doing 100 hours a week, you're not getting much accomplished. And what I learned working with doctoral students at the University of California, Berkeley, or Barkley, was that those who had guilt-free play, those who had a part-time job, those who had a relationship, those who had sports or the gymnasium, those were the ones like myself who got the most accomplished, because it wasn't like I have 168 hours in the week. No, I don't. I'm focused. I'm fighting to get my next half hour to work because I know I'm going to meet friends at 6, or I'm having dinner, or I have an exercise program. Those were the people, the ones who were the busiest, were the ones who were the most productive. And so I compared those who completed their doctoral dissertation in 1 year as opposed to 3 to 13 years. So that's why the subtitle of the Now Habit is Overcome Procrastination While Enjoying Guilt-Free Play. So when you have committed in your schedule, sleep, exercise, social time, then you have a motivation to start early in your day on your work task and getting into that flow state. I am choosing now to create this safe place to think. I don't need the stress hormones. No one is shooting at me. It's safe to concentrate. So you make your body safe. I'm bringing my mind out of the finished future and starting now. So I'm removing anxiety. My definition of anxiety is energy that's stuck trying to get into the imaginary future. When I bring my mind into my body and I exhale and float down into the support of the chair, I'm focused and choosing to be in front of this task. Choice again. I can start now. I brought my mind out of the imaginary past, out of the imaginary future. I'm choosing to be here now. You can get into a flow state. Left brain and right brain working together. Conscious and subconscious working together. And this is the most creative state. In fact, I've looked at passages that I've written, and my conscious mind today doesn't know where that came from because it was in an incubator. It was focused for approximately 60 hours a month, 15 a week, times 4, 60 hours, concentrating on one concept. And it's beyond what I can do with just my conscious mind. I was in a flow state where you're tapping into your subconscious genius.
That is amazing because I can't believe you managed to finish your doctoral dissertation in a year. That is absolutely unheard of. I've never heard. I've got quite a few friends, and none of them completed it within a year. So that is really impressive. And you've dealt with obviously students and who obviously are also kind of researching the area, and I'm sure that they've also procrastinated and done things like that. So as a bystander watching that, how do you manage someone else's very serious procrastination?
Well, the typical manager says you have to get this done by Friday. So there's a have to, and there's a deadline, a future. It's in the future. The effective one says, write me a rough draft and give it to me by 4 o'clock today. Give me a rough draft, not finished. All right. I will consult with you. I'll let you know if you're on the right track. So removing a lot of it, self-doubt. And then we'll work on it tomorrow. We'll edit it. So choose to start. So I can't do it. Yeah, that's what you usually say. But actually, what are you thinking about it? And I've done this with very bright students. UC Berkeley, the University of California at Berkeley attracts incredibly brilliant students. But invariably, they will say, well, I don't know. Yeah, but what do you know? Let me turn on the recorder and let's record what you think about this. Well, it could be this, it could be that. But yeah, go ahead. All right, now take this recording, take it home and write it out. Choose to start now. What do you know? Well, I don't know anything about it. Yes, that's your first response. And now, what's your follow-up? I've done this with children who have ADD, attention deficit disorder. Well, what happens when you look at this? I can't do it. Yes. Notice the yes. I'm not arguing. Yes. That's what you usually say. Now take a deep breath and hold it. Exhale, float down, take another look at it. What comes to you? Well, the only thing that comes to me is this. Yes, write it down. And I've had them, for the first time in school, complete a full page. Getting through the lower brain's sense of self-doubt. I don't know how to do these things. Yes, that's what that part of you says. Take another look at it, take a deep breath, exhale, and look at it and see what comes to you. Now, they're not certain about it, but that's all right. Still, it's a starting point. And then something flows and something else and something else. So, in any event, yeah, works a little like that.
That's so moving as well. I think that is, thank you so much for sharing that, because I think a lot of people have that negative, grow up with that negative self talk, and it does create lots of things. And I see that in the people around me as well who procrastinate a lot, where they
Yeah.
really just, struggle.
That is the deeper psychological issue. And that's the one that will move you the fastest, is getting to a place. I call it the regardless statements. I believe it's on my website. Regardless of what happens, your worth is safe with me. Regardless of what they say, your worth is safe with me. I am on your side. You are not alone. Your ego has a tendency to be alone. It struggles. It tightens muscles that have nothing to do with the work. So I want to relax and float down into the larger sense of self, get into that flow state, open up the creativity of the subconscious mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, thank you so much, Dr. Furia. Like, I really, really appreciate it, because this is a problem that a lot of people face, I've noticed. And
Yes,
so it's so relevant, especially now that there's even more distractions around us all the time.
that's
Uh,
right.
so
Yeah.
it just makes total sense that, this is a topic of conversation we need to keep having, really.
Well, thank you for inviting me, and thank you for your very brilliant questions.